Chapter 6. Whatever you can forget cannot be the eternal. Is it possible to tell me what to do step by step to come closer to realization? Why does one have to do any practice? And for what purpose? Is no practice to be done then? You remain confused so long as you are identified with your body. Even your question, what is to be done, is only from the point of view of your association with the body. As an individual concerned with the body, what am I to do? That really is your question. So long as you remain identified with the body, your confusion will continue. Yes, intellectually it is clear, but when a realized person says that everybody is realized already, it would mean I am realized, but I don't feel like it. The person who says, I don't feel like it, is again identified with the body. So I am unable to express whatever I feel. Is it not something which is there and which you use? Without this consciousness, you would not be able to think or do anything. So that which you are using is already there. There is no other practice to be done except to understand. That is, telling yourself with conviction that it is this knowledge that you are which is itself the knowledge, and not the way you are using this knowledge at the individual level. So the knowledge itself is the one that exists and must remain pure in and as that knowledge. And you must remain apart from it. That knowledge that you are has mistakenly identified itself with the body, and so you are thinking of yourself as the body. But you are the knowledge. Strengthen your conviction that you are the knowledge, this beingness, and not the body. How can one do so? By meditation, like dhyana. And dhyana means the knowledge must remain in meditation with the knowledge. Now, what is meditation? Meditation is the knowledge I am, remaining in that knowledge. There is the waking state and the sleep state, and the knowledge that you are. I exist. I know that I exist. Other than that, what capital does anyone have than merely this knowledge I am? I see it as being important because everything else is changing. What can you base your questions on? The only thing that you have is the knowledge that you exist. Other than that, what knowledge do you have? No knowledge. No other knowledge. Therefore, be in that, and don't presume that you are someone to act. That is all you can do at this stage, and remain in that. All questions really come via your mind and body, from which you have to be separate. This is the total message. Remain in that. If you can accept this message, you may come here because you will repeatedly hear the same thing. But if it is not acceptable to you, then don't waste your time. In the spiritual line, what work have you done? Have you read anything, done anything, been anywhere? Yes. In 1960, I became interested. At that time, I met Swami Menon. Presumably, the visitor is referring to Sri Krishna Menon, also known as Sri Atmananda, and went to his lectures. I go to Rama Ashram frequently, because there Maharaj's book was given to me by Sri Ganesan. You read Ramana Maharshi and both volumes of I Am That? All the time, Ramana Maharshi's books and Maharaj's. What has been said in Ramana Maharshi's books and what has been said in Maharaj's books, does it tally? Absolutely. Ramana Maharshi is somewhat distant and gets you a little scared. Maharaj is tweaking your nose and talking and easier to absorb. You have a clear picture then of your true nature, of what you are. In words, yes. Even if you accept it in words, that is already a lot. Who is it that accepts what has been said in the words? Now that which accepts what has been said in the words, is that principle not separate from the words? I am still a person with a memory. I hope to progress beyond that. What makes you consider yourself as a person? Your identification with the body. Will this individual personality last? It will remain only so long as the identification with the body remains. But once there is a firm conviction that you are not the body, then that individuality is lost. It is the simplest thing. As soon as you have this conviction that you are not the body, then automatically, instantaneously, you become the total manifest. As soon as you leave your individuality, you become the manifest totality. But your true being is apart from even that which is totally manifest, and you assume this individuality within that total manifest so long as you are identified with the body. When there is no individuality, what will you consider to be the one who meditates and the meditation? When this individuality is not there, who meditates and on what? People talk very freely of meditation, but what do they really do? They use their consciousness to concentrate on something. Dhyana is when this knowledge, this consciousness that I am, meditates on itself, and not on something other than itself, on itself. Knowledge has no form in any case. So that is when the I am turns in on itself. It again gets qualified with form because that is the way I am to myself now. When you say you must sit for meditation, the first thing to be done is understand that it is not this body identification that is sitting for meditation, but this knowledge, I am, this consciousness, which is sitting in meditation and is meditating on itself. When this is firmly understood, then it becomes easy. When this consciousness presence merges in itself, the state of samadhi ensues. When this mana, buddhi, chitta, or whatever names are being used, merges in that state, then even the knowledge, I am meditating, gets lost. This also becomes merged in that state. It is the conceptual feeling that I exist that disappears and merges into the beingness itself. So this conscious presence also gets merged into that knowledge, that beingness. That is samadhi. That knowledge unfolds itself and begins to have the knowledge of everything movable and immovable. And that knowledge begins to know itself. And ultimately what happens? The conscious presence alone remains. That is, there is just conscious presence, not I or you or anything. I repeat, it is total presence. That is total manifestation, not I, you, or any individual. This consciousness which is within the body, and therefore has mistakenly assumed that it is the body, gradually realizes its true nature, namely that it is only conscious presence without any inherent individual aspects. Finally, it considers itself the conscious presence of the total manifestation, and all individuality is lost. Thus, what starts as selfishness in the individual sense, as identification with the individual, ultimately becomes knowledge of the self as conscious presence. Have you any comment on this? When you ask questions, ask them on the basis that you are not the body-mind, but that you are the conscious presence. It seems that Maharaj is describing two aspects of meditation on the beyond. First, this concentration, consciousness turning in on itself, the sense I am. And then from that standpoint, and only then, can the conscious being observe with what it has identified itself and free itself from all these identifications. The only thing that I come up against occasionally is that during the course of meditation, some very powerful forces get released in the body and try to shake it sometimes. And at other times there are visions or psychic experiences. All one has to do during such times, what I understand from Maharaj, is to hold the sense I am and try to observe what is happening, even though it can tend to distract one very strongly from this sense of presence. That is true, except understand that you are not actually doing the witnessing of whatever happens sitting in the morning or the visions that come to you. Merely look at them But understand that you are not looking at them. There is no you as an entity witnessing them. Witnessing takes place by itself. So just be in your meditation, and witnessing takes place of whatever there is to be witnessed. And don't even involve yourself in the witnessing. There is daylight outside. Well, we see it. We don't have to make a statement. I am seeing the daylight there. So we are not witnessing. Witnessing takes place automatically. One of the interesting things happening in America in the last few years has been the tremendous importance attached to giving people body massages and things like that to kind of artificially free up the flow of this life force through the body. I feel this is purely a mechanical thing, and sooner or later all the old stuff comes back again. But if we open ourselves in the way that Maharaj instructs us, you can just naturally feel all these little areas of contraction in the body melting away. And it seems to me this is one minor but still important reason for the spiritual aspect which he is presenting to us. Interpreter: he presently does not have enough strength to talk about that. When people refer to devotion, they devote themselves to God, but it is actually devotion to the vital force. All these yogis, what they are doing is they are devoting their time to the vital force. Does he mean by that the play of the vital force through the whole chakra system, and that they do all these exercises to manipulate the spine to elicit various effects? The most important thing is the vital force. Whatever names are given for doing all the spiritual practices, ultimately these efforts apply to the vital force only, because without that there is no existence at all. There is no consciousness. So the vital force is the most important. Whenever the vital force is there, that I consciousness, the knowledge I am, is there. And then there are the four kinds of speech. Para, Pashyanti, refer to existence. And all the activities happen through Madhyama and Vaikari. Madhyama means the mind, and Vaikari is the speech, as expressed, the words that ultimately come out through the mouth. People are directed to other things, but nobody tells them about this birth principle, sattva. That birth principle contains everything. All these four kinds of speech and everything else are contained in it. Not only that, the whole universe, everything that appears, is contained in the birth principle. This is the reason so much stress is placed on finding out what it is. Few people give attention to that birth principle because they don't realize its importance. Because of the birth principle, everything is. The world is. All the knowledge of the world is contained in it. Only 1 in 10 million persons can find out what the birth principle is. And once you know it, everything, all knowledge belongs to you. Even liberation is yours. Then there is the 9-month period in the womb. So what is the content of the womb? It is that knowledge I am, in dormant condition, that is being developed slowly. So within that birth principle, everything is contained. Interpreter: to people who criticize a lot but don't know anything, or somebody who claims to know too much, Maharaj jokingly says, you have not come out of the womb too fast, so everything, all knowledge is contained in that womb, he says. He has found certain changes taking place in his body, something extraordinary. For example, when you examine his pulse, some kind of inner strength is sensed. How do all these things happen? He says that the disease is for the birth principle, whereas he, being the witness of the birth principle, is unaffected. Because he has no birth, there is also no possibility of death. So he just witnesses all these things. He has passed all that on to the birth principle, he says, being the knower of it. Thus, the disease applies to the birth principle only. It has appeared, and ultimately what the disease can do is to extinguish that birth principle. But I am not that, he says. Therefore, he is unconcerned with it. Recognize what he is. In order to recognize him, you have to follow this method. He told you that your consciousness is God. Now, once you understand that you are not the body, but the consciousness, then you get stabilized or established in God's womb. When you go there, you can know what he is. Until then, you don't. That is why he says so many people have come and gone, but nobody has recognized him correctly. They come here and have frequent meetings, and then they say that they follow him. Ultimately, they will come to know that they are the Brahman. But they still don't know me, he says, the knower of Brahman. They don't know. You are still within the realm of consciousness. You are to transcend consciousness to know him. The effect of the disease will be that the memory of the birth will disappear. I am not affected, he says. So long as that remnant ink is available, there is a recording done. That applies to the causal body also. When the ink gets dried up, that causal body is also out of questions. He says some people have come to him who have realized, no doubt about it, they are yanis, but not Brahmayanis. They have stabilized in the consciousness. They have understood the Godhead, that they are God, but could not transcend it. Bri means world, and Aman means I am. So world together with I am the world, that is Brahman. For 42 years now, he has talked so much that he does not like to talk much now. Although people listen to him, they don't get rid of their concepts. Therefore, they remain ensnared within their concepts. In order to really understand what he says, you have to worship that prana, the vital force. That meditation is necessary. Wherever there is some sound, there must be something responsible for it. Now the world is there, so something must have been responsible for its appearance. So that is consciousness. Consciousness is there. Therefore the world is. Now, in whose presence can you say is the eternal truth, the absolute principle? Turiya means where the consciousness is. One who knows Turiya is Turiyatita. That is my state. Turiya is within the consciousness, which is the product of the 5 elements. And one who transcends that, who knows the Turiya, is Turiyatita. In order to be stabilized in Turiya, you must know the birth principle. Turiya is always described as the witness state that sees through waking, dreaming, and sleeping, and Turiyatita is beyond even that. That which is called birth, the birth principle itself, is Turiya. The experience that you exist itself is Turiya. At this moment, whatever you are, its principle has a beginning. It had to originate somewhere. It may be God, Krishna, Rama, anybody, but it had to originate at some point. Without birth principle, what is there? Interpreter: there is no reservation, you know. He does not spare anyone. He just talks straight. Tell him I saw that very vividly yesterday with a friend whom I brought here. He says he can talk like that because he has no doubts whatever about what is and what is not. That is why his talk is of this kind. There is no perhaps or suppose and all that kind of thing. It must be very frustrating for him when people come here and just cling blindly and adamantly to some concept and think they can find a solution through a little manipulation of that. Many sages in the past have proved their victory over mind. For example, there was Mirabai. Mirabai was a great saint, and she was given poison by her husband, but nothing happened to her. Then there is the story of another sage. This one was sick and had not taken medicine for a very long time, and all his disciples were very worried. So they said to him, "You must take medicine." He answered, "Bring all your medicines," and he gulped down the whole thing. And they were again worried, but again nothing happened. Now this also is victory over mind. Victory over mind is one thing. A better expression would be stabilizing in the self, conviction about your true nature. One common characteristic of these sages is that they know what they are. They identify themselves with the Supreme Self. So if somebody tells them about birth, death, sickness, they don't accept all that. They don't believe it, because they have no doubts about what they really are. You might put me out of business. I will go home and tell any patients who come to see me it is all in their head. Of all the statements that I have heard, I have not accepted any except my guru's, that I am Brahman. That is the only acceptable statement to me. A man came here from Baroda and gave me some number and said, "You will become a millionaire overnight." I said, "Don't give me that. You give it to other people who are here. Because tomorrow in the same manner you will tell me I am going to die. So if I am going to become a millionaire, I can die also. It is of no value to me. So many people have come, including many doctors. They have said so much. I have just looked at them and ignored whatever they told me. We, as concepts, accept them and make them our own. It has become very difficult to reject them. I am not the product of my parents. They have not created me. I have come about spontaneously. In your case, you just think whether your parents attached those eyes here. Put the nose there, and the mouth. Whatever information I have prior to birth, that is the only correct information. That knowledge is Parabrahman. Prior to birth is the Absolute, Parabrahman. And after birth is Chetana Parabrahman, the manifest Brahman or the consciousness Brahman. I am that principle which was not affected when the universe was dissolved so many times. This I am concept was not there prior to what you call birth. So as this concept has appeared, it will also go away. How am I affected? In no way whatsoever, because it is not true. This applies to all concepts. Prior to birth and after birth, whatever knowledge I have, my own, without hearing it from anyone, that is the only true knowledge which I accept. And the proof lies in my Guru's words. I tell people whatever is correct. I need not read the Vedas to learn from them, but prior to what is called my birth, whatever knowledge I already had, I am getting confirmation of it in the Vedas. In this world, it is common practice for human beings to ask others for knowledge in both worldly and spiritual matters, and from that they try to live. Knowledge gathered from others, not their own. People learn whatever they are taught. What they were prior to being taught, nobody gives attention to. Whatever you can forget cannot be the eternal. It cannot be the truth. That is why you cannot forget your true state, and that is why you cannot remember it. Whatever you forget is not the truth. Always remember that.